organizations such as Akaal Fauj, and she is busy penning her thoughts, prose, and verse. So please welcome to the stage, Sahibajot Kaur.
Hey everyone, I'm Sahibajot or Sahiba. I'm not a spoken word artist as such. In fact, this is my first time doing spoken word. Thank you. So the words you're going to hear today mostly came together over the past 2 or 3 days, but they've been up here for a while. I think the concept of decolonise was the perfect trigger to pull those words out of my head and onto the page. They say that Australia is a young country. If you ask me, we are young in that we are naive. We are young in that we still believe the one-sided story of those who came across the seas to take and to keep, to capture and to seize, to do as they pleased, to stay and to never leave. We are young in that we struggle to see that we are in fact home to one of the oldest, most ancient cultures on earth. Our buildings and our cities have only been here 200 years, but for well over 60,000 before the roads and the towns and before white man did his rounds and decided what to keep and what to knock down. Before any of this even existed, this land was loved and it was respected. Not to be owned, but to be lived with. This land is stolen. It was never ceded. I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional and rightful owners of this land, the Dharug people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and future, and to country itself. I pray that we may all reflect on what it truly means to call this land home. Home. What a shame that I feel thankful for not having to live on the land from which I hail, and rather on land that never belonged to those who rule it and once ruled mine. They may have left, but what they left behind was a land no longer whole, torn by a line, stripped of its sanctity and wrung of its riches, ripped through the middles and sewed up with stitches. The soil that once existed under the soles of my own can now never be for me what they called home. Uprooted and displaced, the battles that they faced, a declaration of their faith, greeting hardship with grace and laughing in the face of death. Laying down their lives and laying down their heads, fighting for human rights, empowering those with less, rising through the night, choosing righteousness over rest. The blessings of that blood-soaked land, the whispers held in its sienna sand, the roars that echo between its trees, the roars of triumphs and victories, its sacredness and spirituality now a distant reality for me. The blistered feet that traversed its jungles of gentle warriors, so fierce yet so humble, the wind that swept its villages and streets, the rivers that flowed its valleys and peaks, their banks on which my grooms would sit and sing songs of love on nights moonlit. Ingrained in my veins, but never to be touched. Perhaps my home was made to be such, a distant history, never to be touched. History. My history is richer than I'll ever know. Despite the riches, You took from my home, and not just mine, but the homes of many, my sisters, my brothers who tell me their stories, the ideals we upheld and the spirit we lived with, the valor in our veins and the dignity we dealt with, the altruism, the love, the bravery in our blood, the smiles on our faces through the battles and the chases, our hearts forever strong and
built on mortality, driven by capital and not morality. Why is monetary status given priority over history, identity, and a oneness mentality? Identity. Finally, we awaken and come to our feet. We now have traction after years of defeat. Time lost in just trying to make ends meet, with families to feed and routine lives to lead. We now have room for resistance, for revolutionary real talk to reclaim our existence. Some time for reflection without compromising sustenance. The goal was once survival, but it is now revival. Rebelling, rediscovering, ready for the re-arrival of lost roots. For we are created of the forces of destruction, born from the sword, not slave to instruction, sovereign state of mind, free of restriction, germinating from the seeds of conviction, growing shoots to execute the weeds in jurisdiction. O ship on the shore, please tell me more of how you are so sure that the land will be waiting on your every return, that the water you sail on won't take you in turn, won't swallow you whole before you reach home. How do you rise above the depths of the ocean? How do you not fear its very notion? It is on stolen land I stand and ask you this question. I fear we're drowning in comfort, not realizing our subjection, blinded by the waves of gratification, unaware of the icebergs that need our attention. Unaware. Comfort and pleasure are easy distractors, easy tools to make us fools instead of informed reactors. We think that in our lives it is we who are the actors, but are we more than mere puppets played by unseen factors? By a director and a cameraman out of our reach, our lives painted by a painter we can't even see, being part of a system we can't possibly leave, being forced to put faith in what we don't believe, with our actions unseen in the big monopoly. But we don't even realize because we're fast asleep. We keep running from this truth, so I thought I'd repeat it. The land on which I stand and on which you are comfortably seated, this land is stolen. It was never ceded. Wake up to the truth, put your hand out and greet it. To acknowledge our struggles is what is truly needed, and that our struggles are one and make us the same unites us in this fight disguised as a game. Look to your ancestors, understand their aims. For me, I must stop and look at my name. Name, Sahibajot. Sase Kanna, Hahe Sehari, Babbe Kanna, Jajje Hoda, Datta, Sahibajot. Sahiba, divine master, friend, universe. Jot, light. So if the light of the universe is the meaning of my name, if the power of that oneness is running through my veins, I can do anything as long as I vow to maintain my faith in that light from which I came, from which we all came. I have the power to be free, so universe, please give me the eyes to see yourself in each of my fellow beings, the ears to hear, and the heart to believe that if we all rise up and wake from our sleep, that if we step out of our slumber and take to our feet, that if we love one another like family, we will be a force to be reckoned with.
beyond defeat, a people entitled to victory. Perhaps home isn't something so far out of reach. Thank you.